In this video, I'm going to teach you how you should specifically handle objections when you're setting appointments over the phone, and then actually give you the script on handle the most common objections you're going to experience and why I teach this particular method versus another. And that's coming up right after this. Greetings out there. My name is David Duford, owner and operator of Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, where I help agents like you succeed in the final expense and insurance business. In today's video, I'll be talking specifically why objections are only a reflex and how you should respond to them in order to effectively close for more appointments. One of the things that I've learned from great sales trainers like Claude Whitaker here, I've got his book, I've been reading a lot of his material, excellent sales trainer, is that the reality of setting appointments and receiving objections is that the objections that you're going to hear are simply reflexive. Many of the times, most of the times even, what objections you get from them don't actually stem from anything substantive whatsoever. It's just a reaction that your prospect over the phone is going to say to anybody at any time when you're calling them to try to get in the door to sell them something. Another way to look at it is if you have children. I don't know if you guys out there have kids or not, but I have 3 with a 4th one on the way. And I can tell you, as my kids get older, when they hear something they don't want to hear, like, can I have a popsicle? Their response to me saying no is not some long-fangled, long drawn-out objection explaining the rational reasons why that I should have a popsicle and why it's good for me, and then asking for the popsicle again. Well, in fact, what tends to happen is they just repeat the same request over again. And sometimes they get it, and other times where I was emphatic with my no, you're not going to get the popsicle response, it actually turns around that I say, well, okay. And in analyzing that, one has to think, what was the reason that I said no anyway? Did I even have time to formulate a reason? Perhaps it was instinctual. Kids shouldn't have sugar constantly throughout the day. So maybe it was based in some kind of knee-jerk gut reaction. But upon their objection or rebuttal, no, I want a popsicle, I went ahead and allowed it. Again, not for any particular reason, but because at whatever point in time, I just felt like it was an okay thing to do. The reason I bring this up is because essentially the popsicle example is the same circumstances you'll experience over the phone. These people, when you call them, are going to object more often than not to what your proposition is. And they're objecting to it not for a rational reason, but for an emotional reason. So when you're doing an objection rebuttal, understand that the concept behind it is not that you want to object and make a rational proposition that's going to last 30 to 60 seconds long trying to explain why it's a bad idea. You should rebuttal these objections in the form of just thinking as a reflexive type of response. You shouldn't spend so much time trying to argue with these people. You should simply agree with their premise and continue to ask the appointment. So take Claude Whitaker's training, for example. Again, I'll show you the book that I've been reading. It's fantastic. It's called Sales Prospecting. I'm going to put the link below in my YouTube description box. Claude describes this particular script I'm going to show you with how to deal with objections when setting the appointment. And what I'm going to start with are some of the more common objections you're going to hear when setting appointments, so you know exactly word for word what to do when you experience them and what exactly to say. And after we go through each particular point, I'm going to explain to you why this objection rebuttal is so powerful. So a lot of the times you guys will see this objection happen, which is, can you send me some information? If you sell life insurance, or if you sell final expense, even if you're mailing off and getting direct mail response cards back or some kind of lead, you're still going to get people who say, hey, even though you sent me a card, that's what we all know, they're going to ask for you to send some more information to them. Now, we all know that this objection is silly, right? We just sent them a card, and they sent it back. And they know at the end of the day that the way people do business, generally speaking, when buying something is a face-to-face appointment. But of course, like I've taught so far, objections are not rational. They're just knee-jerk. So you need to come up with a succinct response in order to reply to that and then ask for the appointment. So let's go over exactly what Claude recommends. So when somebody says, can you send me the information? Here's the rebuttal. No, I want to meet you. After we talk for 5 minutes, you can decide if we should schedule an appointment later. Will you be there tomorrow at 3 or would 6 work? So what's really good about this rebuttal technique is that, first of all, you're not really asking for an appointment, right? You're just asking to meet them. So you're kind of dismissing that, oh, it's an appointment for an hour and a half and he's going to grind on me to the point of, forcing me to buy something that I don't need. So there's very little investment on behalf of the prospect to worry about something like that happening. The second part of this rebuttal is that you're actually empowering this person to make the decision if they want to set an appointment. So it's a little subtle way of doing this, right? Usually when we're setting appointments, we're plowing ahead towards actually setting an appointment. In this particular circumstance, you're empowering them to make the decision after you meet to set an appointment. So it's kind of this way to subtly nuance how to get in the door without really getting in the door, right, to set an appointment. So people feel like they've got a level of control here and that you're really not doing an appointment, you're just doing a brief meeting. Of course, the outcome here is that you're probably going to do an appointment anyway, but this is how you get in the door and overcome that silly, can you send me information objection. Again, notice here, you didn't go into some rational explanation as to why the insurance companies require a face-to-face appointment or whatever in that regards. It's a very straightforward, no, I want to meet you, and after we meet for 5 minutes, you can decide if you'd like to set an appointment with me. Would 3 o'clock or 6 work better? Answers that rebuttal, doesn't spend a lot of time on it, and closes for the appointment, which are the particular specific elements of setting an appointment that you need to make sure you do every single time. Okay, guys, I know you guys hear this all the time, right? I'm busy all month. I'm busy today. I'm busy tomorrow. I'm busy all year. I've got this doctor's appointment going on. I've got this ball game to go to. Everybody's busy all the time and can't even spend a few minutes to do anything, right? Of course they can. So this is another one of those examples where somebody's giving you an irrational, knee-jerk objection that really stems from the fact they just have apprehension meeting, and it's an emotional response. So what do you do when you come back to this? Do you go into some detailed explanation as to why it's not a big deal to me, and you try to be friends with them over the phone, spend the next 10 minutes talking to them about how great of a person you are and great company? No, that's silly. You don't want to do that because this is just a knee-jerk objection, and let's look at how you actually rebuttal this thing. So when they say, I'm busy all day, you respond to it by saying, so am I, so I can't take much time. We'll know after 10 minutes if this is something to talk further about. Will you be there tomorrow at 3 or would 6 work better? Again, the same structure here is very straightforward, and it's very easy to understand how well this works. You're saying, hey, yeah, so am I, and I don't really have much time. And it just takes 10 minutes, and then you can decide after we meet if it's worth going any further. So again, you're coming to terms, say, hey, me too, and I'm busy, and that's why I can only spend 10 minutes here. And how's 3 or 6 o'clock tomorrow work, right? We're taking the time to answer it in a low investment way that doesn't go into some long dissertation, and we're closing for the appointment. Again, the 3 elements you need is to answer the objection as succinctly, without as much detail as possible, right to the point. Give a quick sales pitch on why you should set the appointment. Hey, you just need 10 minutes and then you can decide if this is something for you, if we need to go further. And then close for the appointment. How's 3 o'clock tomorrow sound? Or would 6 be better? So what if they tell you, I've already got life insurance, I've already got a vacuum, I've already got solar panels on my roof? What kind of objection rebuttal do you give when you hear that particular type of response? Let's take a look. So if you check this script out and they say something along the lines that I just mentioned, I'm happy with what I have now, the rebuttal is simple. Then what we have will fit you nicely. We should meet. Will you be there tomorrow at 3 p.m. or would 6 work better? So same objection response here, guys. You're not going into a sales pitch selling your product over the phone. You're not going into some sort of logical breakdown of everything that's great about yourself or your company or any of that, because there's really not much you're going to be able to do in most sales situations to sell yourself that much more over the phone, which is why we need a face-to-face appointment. Again, this script is perfect. It answers this perfectly. When you say something like, then what we have will fit you nicely, it kind of develops a little intrigue in the mind of the prospect. And then when you encourage them, we should meet. That actually makes it sound a little bit more interesting, right? Again, better than going to some long dissertation where you bore the prospect after 5 seconds. And then you spend at the very last point closing the appointment. And just like every objection rebuttal, you want to make sure you close and ask for the appointment again. One of the other things a lot of sales trainers teach is that the more you tell, the less you sell. Now, I think this is something that's dependent upon whatever it is that you're doing. If you sell over the phone completely, obviously that's not going to apply to you. But a lot of people, when they sell, a lot of what it is that they're doing over the phone, when the process requires a face-to-face appointment, what a lot of people find is that as they tell more about what it is that they're going to do in the appointment, how the thing works, what the specifics are, it's giving reasons to the person on the other end of the line to decline you from being there in the first place, right? So for example, if I call up and say, I sell life insurance to people who are seniors, we represent all the biggest companies out there, we can shop around to get you the best price and coverage, how's Tuesday at 2 work? Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad approach to setting an appointment, but what happens is you get people who are going to say something in response to that. They'll say, oh, I see, I've got life insurance, I'm completely fine. So they may not even have it, or they may have it and it may be a poor choice of coverage, right? But you've sold them, if this is an objection rebuttal, of course. I'm not saying this is an opening statement, but if you're telling this stuff to them over the phone as a rebuttal to an objection, then you're giving them another reason to tell you no. Whereas if all you say is, hey, we should meet, how's 3 o'clock sound to you? There's nothing to say no there, right? It's very straight to the point. If they say, hey, look, I'm completely happy with what I have, then Mr. Jones, what we have will fit you nicely. We should meet. How's 3 o'clock tomorrow? There's nothing really to say no there except to the appointment, right? But you're not giving them anything and feeding them these excuses to try to create a reason to block you out of the door. So that's why this approach works really well. It's straight to the point. There's not a lot of bloviating, and you get down to brass tacks. We should meet. How's 3 o'clock sound? Now, this works approximately 95% of the time. Most of the objection replies that you're going to get are reflexive, but as you guys know, sometimes you're going to actually experience an objection that is what I would call a condition. It's something that is substantive, and it does sound reasonable up front, so you need to know how to deal with this particular objection too. Perfect example is when somebody calls, let's say we're selling life insurance. When I call on a prospect and tell them I help business owners with their life insurance, would you like to know more? And they reply back to me and they say, oh, I've already got life insurance. I'm completely insured. I'm completely happy with what I have. What do you say to that? They may even tell you, oh, I just bought a big life insurance policy from New York Life yesterday. I'm completely happy with how it works. They may give you a rational stance on why an appointment is just a waste of not just your time, but yours as well. How do you handle something like that? So here's the script that I just relayed to you. So pretty much straightforward, right? Somebody says, look, it's funny you mentioned that. I just bought a policy the other day. I'm completely happy with what I got. The response to that is, okay, Mr. Jones, based on what you just told me, I think we should get together. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock work? So again, what you're doing here is you're giving very little to say no to. You're actually saying in an interesting way, that's the exact reason we should meet. How's 3 sound? It's intriguing. There's not much said, but the nuance to how it's said perks somebody up and gives them a little bit of interest into it. And then at the end of the day, some of these people are going to convert because it sounds a little different, and it's a very minimal investment in what has had to happen or what will happen in order to sit down with the person and see what they have to offer. So the moral of the story here, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're setting appointments over the phone, and this doesn't matter if you're selling to residential or you're selling to business, is that most objections are completely reflexive. They're not something to be logically believed. Everybody has sales resistance. None of us want to waste our valuable time getting harassed by a salesperson, having to listen to a pitch that we have no interest to. So we develop these resistance patterns intuitively to avoid confrontation, avoid wasting time, and stay away from these situations that don't add value. So everybody out there has these dispositions they've developed over their lifespan. And so, as I learned from one agent in particular early on, is that you have to anticipate objections, because we all, for the reasons I've just mentioned, are going to object to a meeting. That doesn't mean that they aren't necessarily interested, and it's not even personal to you. It's just that they have this natural resistance towards salespeople. So you have to anticipate objection as they come. And then you also have to understand that it is an emotional, irrational response. It is a survival mechanism reaction. And if you just react to it in a simple manner, and you close for the appointment, then you're going to get a percentage of those booked as appointments. Whereas obviously if you don't rebuttal this stuff, knowing that this is reflexive, you're losing out on a ton of particular or potential prospects that are out there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I talked about, I definitely recommend watching the video I did the other day where I talk about the best cold calling script I've run across that also is discussed in Claude Whitaker's Sales Prospecting book. And then also, if you're watching this the day I published it, tomorrow I'm going to be doing an interview with Claude where we go into great detail about the referral generation process that he personally uses in his business and teaches his reps as well. It is the best referral training I've ever seen. It produces highly qualified prospects. It works wonders. And it's about a 50-minute, maybe hour-long conversation. You're going to learn each tip step by step on how to generate referrals. I'm going to put a link in the video description below after the video is done. But in the meantime, make sure you pick up this book. This is a fantastic book. This is actually one of several that Claude's done. It is a must-have if you're new to sales or experience. I've learned so much. I've sold for more than a decade now. And this little book, which is, I think, $3 on Kindle, is a powerful resource that every salesperson, no matter your background, should definitely pick up. So the link there is below. Pick that up. My name is David Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor, and I'm checking out. We'll see you next time. Take care.